In regards to the mitzvah of Machzis HaShekel, the Pasuk says that Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Zeh Yitnu, this is what they should give. Chazal say that Hashem actually showed Moshe Rabbeinu a fiery coin and said, Zeh Yitnu, they should give something exactly like this. Now, what was the problem with Machzis HaShekel that Hashem needs to show Moshe Rabbeinu a fiery coin? Tosfos explains that Moshe Rabbeinu was wondering, what could a person possibly give that it should be an atonement for a soul? Because it says about Machzis HaShekel that this is going to be an atonement for their souls. Says the Rebbe, but we need to understand. Seemingly, it's something very simple and obvious that when a Yid does a mitzvah, he gets a reward, as we find in so many places in the Torah itself. So in our case, what's the problem to say that the reward for Machzis HaShekel is that he's going to be getting kofer nafshay? So why is this something so surprising to Moshe Rabbeinu? We also need to understand in Hashem's response. Hashem is showing him a coin of fire. Well, number one, why do we need to emphasize that it's a coin of fire? If the reason is because when we speak about Hashem showing things from above in the spiritual realm, it's all going to be fire. That's what represents the spirituality. So then you don't need to say in this case that it was a coin of fire. On the other hand, if Hashem could also show things that are not fire, and Hashem could have shown him a coin in the physical sense, a silver coin, then why do we need to say that it was a coin of fire? We also need to understand how was Moshe Rabbeinu's question actually answered through Hashem showing him the coin of fire. Says the Rebbe, we might want to suggest that what Hashem was telling him is that when a Yid does a mitzvah, especially when a Yid is doing it with fire, with excitement, with enthusiasm, with passion, then we're creating over here a certain element of fire, and therefore this sort of giving could be an atonement for the soul. But, says the Rebbe, if that's the case, once again, then why is Moshe Rabbeinu wondering about it? What's so surprising about it? This seems to be a very, very obvious idea. And furthermore, this is something true regarding every mitzvah. Through a mitzvah, you bring down fire, you bring down ruchnius, spirituality. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu so surprised by this mitzvah? And finally, the Rebbe says, why does Hashem have to show Moshe Rabbeinu the coin? Hashem could tell Moshe Rabbeinu, just like he told the rest of the Torah. Why in this case does he need to show him the fiery coin? Says the Rebbe, the point of the explanation is, generally when we speak about a reward of a mitzvah, it can come in one of two ways. In certain cases, we say the reward is like a natural consequence out of the mitzvah. Based on the criteria or the content of the mitzvah itself, we can understand why it brings to this reward almost like in a natural way. There are some times regarding a reward, we say that we don't see the connection at all. But this is what Hashem decided, to give the reward for this particular mitzvah, almost like the idea of chukim. Certain mitzvahs we just totally don't understand why they need to be done, but this is Hashem's ratzah. The same thing is true in regards to the rewards of the mitzvah. Sometimes this is just what Hashem wants to give the reward. Applying this now in our case, there's a physical coin being given, and we're saying this is going to be atoning for the soul. Not only are these two things so far apart from each other, the physical coin and the soul, but they're extreme opposites. Money generally is like the lowest of the low. It could bring the person to the lowliest places. The silver and gold themselves, not only are they from the category of doimim, the inanimate, which is the lowest of the four categories, doimim, tzomei, chayim, medaber, but within the earth itself, it's found in the depth of the earth. On the other hand, we have the soul of a Yid, which is a Chelek alikami mal mamish. So logically, according to Seichel, it doesn't seem to make sense to fit. How could a physical money or physical silver, as far as the content, the natural connection between this, be connected to kofer nafshay? So it seems it would be like in part of this category that it's just that's what Hashem decided. And this is where Moshe's wonder or question is coming up. On the one hand, in Moshe's mind, it seems like it's the kind similar to a chukkah. We just can't understand it. Hashem just decided this is going to be the reward. But on the other hand, Machzis HaShekel is never defined as a chayk. In fact, as the Rebbe points out in the footnote, on the contrary, the pasuk itself is saying that the reason for Machzis HaShekel is so that it will be an atonement. It sounds like there's a logical reason going on over here. So Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to understand, could there be some sort of logical explanation? How could there be a logical explanation that the physical coin is going to become kofer nafshay, the atonement for the soul? And this is what Hashem is answering by showing him the coin made of fire. What Hashem is saying is that when a Yid gives the Machzis HaShekel, the coin itself is now becoming like a fiery coin. In other words, a spiritual coin. And this will help us understand, even logically, the connection between the Machzis HaShekel and to be an atonement for the soul. And the Rebbe says, not like by tzedakah, for example, where we say that Hashem says, You gave life to the poor person and to his family, so Hashem is going to reward you and save you and your family. At that point, it's not the coin itself. It's not about the coin. It's about the fact, the spirit of what happened over here. You gave him life, and you're going to get life. But here we're saying something else. It's as if the coin itself almost took on those properties of fire and spirituality. And the Rebbe explains, by the actual fact that Hashem showed Moshe Rabbeinu this fiery coin from under the Kisei HaKavod and said, Zeh Yitnu, this is what the Yidden should give, Hashem is now creating this chiddush, this novelty, that when the Yid gives the machzis hashekel, the coin itself that he's going to give is not only going to be about the physical coin, but the coin itself is sort of taking on again those properties. It's almost becoming like a spiritual coin of a coin of fire. So the coin itself is Zeh Yitnu, exactly like the one that Hashem is showing Moshe Rabbeinu. In other words, in addition to the fact that any mitzvah draws down spirituality into the coin, that's true by every mitzvah. But here we're saying it's like the coin itself is becoming spiritual. And not only that up in its root, up in its source, Lamaila, it's fire. Again, that would be true with every physical thing. Everything has a source up above. But here we're saying the Chiddush that the coin itself, as it came down to be a physical object, when we're doing the Machzis HaShekel with that mitzvah, it's causing this change in the coin, that now it's becoming this fiery spiritual coin. This sort of connection between fire and a coin is completely the opposite, which are two opposite extremes, especially when we speak about the fire from up above, which is the ultimate of spirituality. And again, the lowliest of the elements, which is expressed in the silver or in the coin. Who is the one that can combine these two opposites? Obviously, that's only Hashem himself, which is beyond the limitations of what we call Seder Ishtalshalus, of all the worlds and all the levels that usually need to come in a form of a chain, one higher than the next. And that's why Hashem says, that's why the Medrash says that Hero HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem is the one that had to show this coin of fire and say Zeh Yitnu. In other words, it's only Hashem himself that can combine these two opposites, similar to the whole idea of Yesh Me'ayin. Hashem is the only one that could create something out of nothing. Hashem is not limited. And just like in creating something out of nothing, it was through the words of Hashem. Hashem created the world through Dibur. In a similar way over here, Hashem says, when Hashem says, Zeh Yitnu, this is what they're going to give, that itself achieves this chidush. That when the Yid gives the machzah shekel, in fact, it turns into this fiery, godly, spiritual coin. Says the Rebbe, we still need to understand. Obviously, Moshe Rabbeinu could have understood this as well, that Hashem could connect opposites. So what's exactly his surprise and his wonder? And the Rebbe says we can answer in a few ways. Number one, even if Moshe knows that Hashem could do it, it's still remaining higher than logic and seichel. And therefore, in the realm of intellect of Kedusha, Moshe Rabbeinu is still wondering. In other words, it's still a surprise. How could this be? In other words, it doesn't fit in the world of seichel. Yes, Moshe Rabbeinu knows it could be higher than seichel. But the meaning of it, he's wondering, meaning that in the world of seichel, it doesn't fit. Point number two, the Rebbe says, that's actually why Hashem is showing it to Moshe Rabbeinu. If Hashem would just tell Moshe Rabbeinu, then it always remains higher than a seichel. Hashem says, I could do this. But when you see something, it takes on a whole different meaning when you can actually see it actually in the works. The Rebbe now moves on to one more point. The Rebbe says, why specifically fire, if you want to emphasize that it's a spiritual coin? Because we know that there's other things in spirituality that could also be represented through other ideas. You know, the Rebbe says there's the concept of water in Kedusha as well, or in Ruchnius. So the Rebbe says amongst the four elements, Eish specifically has this nature of always ascending, going upwards. And this is what Hashem was showing to Moshe Rabbeinu, that the way the Yidden are giving this coin is in a fiery way. That means it also has this characteristic of wanting to go up higher, which will then make even more geschmack the idea of you giving a physical coin, but it's going to be bringing about the kaifer nafshi, the kapara, because it has the element of fire. That means, although it's a physical coin, but it's constantly trying to go away from its materialistic state and always trying to strive and go to a more spiritual and godly state. And the Rebbe concludes with an amazing hayra in Avodas Adam. Even though it's true, Machzah Shekel was given mainly in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, but the Minig Yisrael is we give Machzah Shekel now as well before Purim. In addition to this, we also know there's the concept of our spiritual Beis HaMikdash that we create inside of ourselves. So therefore, there's also this hayra of giving the machzis hashekel when a yid gives a coin for a mitzvah, for tzedakah, or when he speaks nice words to someone in a kind way. So it's not only about the physical coin or the physical words, but it also always has that idea that it's a fiery coin or fiery words. It's also spiritual and holy words or a holy coin. And of course, from machzis hashekel, we take the lesson for the rest of the mitzvahs as well. We do mitzvahs with physical things, whether it's with a parchment of tefillin or the wool of tzitzis. It's a physical act, but at the same time, it's not only a physical thing. There's the fire of the ruchnius and kedusha in it. And obviously, this only tells us so much more how great it is when we do a mitzvah with fire, with enthusiasm, with passion and excitement, because then we notice the Eish is in a recognizable way, until finally we come to fulfill the mitzvah, as the Pasuk says, Eish Tami Tukat Ala Mizbeach Lo Yisichba, that the fire is never extinguished on the Mizbeach, and so too in the Mizbeach, which represents the heart of the Yid.